Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is Randy Mowry. Today's episode is The Perks of a Heat Distribution Kit. Let's get into it. Hey Randy, how you doing this morning, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Mike, how's it going over on your end of the country? Sometimes I feel like I know you're just, probably like an hour from my house, but sometimes when you drive over to that side of town, it feels like it's going to the other side of the country because you literally go from where I'm at in the city to the country.
Yep. It's funny. We were hanging out with one of the manufacturers we work with. And they looked at us, we're in Auburn Hills, and they were like, it's crazy. This is a city. And then if I just drive 15 minutes, it'll be nothing but pastures and trees. And I was like, yeah, that's how we do here.
Exactly. I know. I tell you, it's crazy. Doing good, though. We have a little balmy day today, but it's all right.
Yeah, you know what? It's fall in Michigan, right? Well, here's the deal. We're going to talk today about the perks of a heat distribution kit. And I know, Randy, that these became popular, but they also became necessary. I mean, there's a little bit of a history when it comes to direct vent fireplaces that you and I have walked through in the industry, 7, 8, 9 years ago when all of this stuff started coming out. The big deal with direct vent fireplaces was it was closed off with glass in front, which made it clean, right? It just made a clean look. It made it streamlined. You could, put whatever you wanted, whatever kind of fascia around it. But there was an issue with heat and how the only place it was able to go was up through the flue, right? And fresh air was coming in from outside. But when that heat radiated, that's what it did. It just poured off of the glass itself. So let's talk today to our listeners, both our listeners who are trying to discover, what is it? What do I want to put in my house, as well as our pros out there who maybe don't have the history of what's gone on with direct vent fireplaces, and just talk about heat distribution kits and how they came about.
No, absolutely. So, with the direct vents, they're fantastic units. As you mentioned, we're not pulling any oxygen from inside the envelope of the house. We're pulling it from outside. So we're pulling fresh air in from the pipe and exhausting some of the heat and flue gases out within the same pipe. So we're pulling nothing from the internal of the house itself because these units are sealed systems, have a solid glass panel front. So when they first came out, it was just this radiant heat coming off the glass. Some of the units may have or may not have had a blower just to help force the heat further into the space. They do a fantastic job. As mentioned, the glass would get hot. And if somebody touched that glass, it could literally peel the skin off your finger. So the first step in the industry, what they did is they created what was like a child safety screen. And they implemented these child safety screens. And now these child safety screens, they ship with every single direct vent fireplace. And, Mike, some of them are, we'll call them kind of invisible to the eye until you get up really close to it. It's not like we're putting this really ugly mesh in front of a glass fireplace. It is aesthetically pleasing. It's just a safety barrier so that our little ones don't get up there and hurt themselves on this glass. So as things start to evolve, people want to do installations, a little bit differently. And mantles are big. I can't speak for your parents' house, but like the house that I grew up in, big old mantles above the fireplaces. And those are great for a lot of traditional fireplaces. But now that we have these direct vents linear, meaning they're longer in width than they are in height. So that's really popular these days. And it's whether it's a residential property or if it's a hotel, apartment building, clubhouse, these linears are super popular. People don't want to put these mantle barriers in front of them. Maybe they don't want the heat. So that's where this conversation comes into play, Mike, about heat distribution systems.
That's some great information there, Randy. I remember talking to manufacturers when that safety screen rule came out. In the testing that they had to go through, it had to put up with so much pressure per square inch so that a little one couldn't come running up and with both hands or fall, right? That was, if you're putting this in the center of your living space, the concern was they could fall forward and their hands hit that safety screen and it wouldn't push in and burn them. It was going to be warm. It was going to be hot, actually, but it wasn't going to burn them. And some manufacturers took that to another level. They were like, how do we pull that heat off of the glass altogether? I remember going through a hotel that had one of the first units that you could just put your hand on while it was burning. I literally stood there with my hand on it, just staring at it going, yep, this is the future. Because people really want that glass to be able to see the fire, you know? So,
Oh, absolutely. And there's definitely models out there that offer that, so that there is no glass. You know, they actually offer some type of, you know, dual glass type of system that we're going to chat about a little bit today.
so I love the way you kind of took us through the history of the safety barrier itself. Just to let people know, those dual glass units are pricey. I think they've been coming down in the last few years, but they're pretty expensive. Your standard unit in the home, like Randy said, is going to come with that safety barrier so that you can put it in place. And I would say the manufacturers we work with, I'd say all the manufacturers did an excellent job of finding a way so that that thing doesn't stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some cases, depending on the models, where it's placed, the lighting, you may have to be almost on top of the fireplace to realize there's some type of mesh in front of it. They've done a fantastic job of manufacturing these, making them safe, but almost having this thing disappear into the fireplace itself.
So quite a few manufacturers since then have started offering a type of heat distribution kit. And as Randy and I were talking about this before we even went live here, it is called different things by different manufacturers. You know, there are different, but ultimately what we came to agreement on is it's a way to distribute the heat that's radiating off of that box and put it somewhere else, you know. And we came up with a few, I'd say 3 reasons why they use these things. And the third one might surprise you, it might not surprise you. But the first one we came up with was actual use of the heat. I know inside of the homes that, you know, of my friends, my family, you flip on the direct vent fireplace, it's going to take a while for that glass to heat up. And then really what you're getting from it is radiant heat off of the glass itself, right? So some of these heat distribution kits give you an excellent opportunity to use the heat that's inside of that cavity or that bump out and radiate it into different rooms. Can you talk to how that works, Randy?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's definitely some variations in how we can do this. So the first, we'll talk about the reason behind these heat distribution kits, and I'm going to speak to the main question that comes to us all the time is, speaking of these linear units, the biggest design that we see these days is, the first question is, can we put a TV above the fireplace? There's going to be several models in the market that are not going to allow that TV unless they may not even say to put a TV above it because of the heat, of course, because maybe they don't have some way of offloading heat, which is going to require some type of mantle between the fireplace, glass above that, and then a TV above that. And then the owners are still taking ownership of that TV because there's still nothing possibly within the manual of that manufacturer that is going to have any kind of guidance on you putting a TV even above the mantle because of the heat. And that's challenging sometimes. You know, somebody has an 8-9 foot wall and they have this fireplace, and then maybe that mantle has to be 18 inches above the glass of the fireplace, and then their TV. So now somebody has, 65, 75, 80 inch TV, that might slam their TV against a ceiling. It just doesn't look aesthetically nice. They don't want the mantle. They want this clean look. Now, were these heat management systems designed for TVs? Probably not, but it definitely helps. And so,
Yeah, you jumped ahead a little on me because that was number 3 on my list that I had written down. But I do feel like, just from our side, Randy, we would call manufacturers, even when I moved from the sales side over to business development, I was constantly having discussions with manufacturers about, dude, everybody that calls wants to put a TV above the fireplace. And they would, at first it was, no, they have to follow this rule, blah, blah, blah. Well, then after you ask that question so many times, they get it.
yes,
Right? They
yeah,
start going, well, our developers are looking into ways to really get rid of the heat in that space so it'll be safe for people's TVs. So they must have been getting phone calls from customers going, you screwed up my TV.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all, at all.
So that heat comes off, and I like the way you said it earlier as well. When you go into the hotels and stuff, that clean look. No mantle. I go to the hotels and to the different resorts that I've stayed at, and it's just a flat wall, and that linear fireplace is a part of that flat wall with nothing above it, nothing on it. But even then, Randy, I've been able to, in older installments, I've been able to put my hand on the stone. It's usually some type of slate that's on the wall. I put my hand on there, and it's hot. So really, these distribution kits are trying to remove that heat from that open space, right, and help get it out of there.
Absolutely. And there's different ways of doing that, Mike. The cool thing about like these various distribution kits is, so one, we can use that heat in a different room. So let's just say that, adjacent to that fireplace, within 25 feet or so, let's say that there's a bathroom. And for some reason, there's no way to maybe possibly tie that into the HVAC system of somebody's home. You can do like an adjacent room type of distribution. Well, you can run a pipe off of the fireplace, run it over into that bathroom, and dump some of that heat into the bathroom. So that's just one way of, whether it's a bathroom, bedroom, of distributing that heat into another area.
Let's dive real fast because you said run a pipe, and immediately my mind thought, man, somebody's going to be listening to this and go, wait, you're dumping the fumes into... No. When Randy says you're running a pipe, you're not running like the exhaust pipe. That is all self-contained. The exhaust is going outside. We're pulling fresh air from the outside as well. But what these units have are places where you can attach. Are they flex? Talk.
So it's flex venting. So much stronger, but let's just think of, because everybody's familiar with like the dryer vent material.
Yep.
It's just to put it in a visual, it's a flexible pipe similar to that typically is going to have some type of insulation around it. And then what you're doing is there are usually one or two, because some units will allow you to go to two different directions, maybe doing a bathroom and a bedroom, and you're attaching it to these ports that are built into the fireplaces that have knockouts if somebody's going to do that. And you're connecting this flex pipe there, and then you're feeding this flex pipe into another room. So it's just like flex piping for a standard HVAC system that somebody's using.
And I want to be clear here. It's not venting any kind of fumes, any kind of exhaust. It's truly, when you think of your HVAC system, when we say vent, we mean the heat duct.
Correct.
The heat vent that runs from the furnace all the way across the house and warms the bedroom. The hot air runs through there. So what the manufacturers have done is they've kind of built a scoop of sorts on top of the unit to funnel some of that heat into an opening, a hole. And you connect that duct onto that hole so it funnels all the radiant heat into that, and it's going to rise off of that, and now you can direct it because you have this flex vent coming off it, or flex duct, if you want to use the term duct, coming off of there. So that I just wanted to clarify that, Randy, because I could see myself in the audience going, wait, hold on. You're venting it into the bathroom? Unsafe. What are these guys talking about? And you would be right.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So we're able to take that and, dump it into, and even if it is a room where, I have a bathroom all the way on the other end of the house, And by the time the heat runs all the way over there, it's not quite the same as when it's closer to the furnace, right? 1970s home. So there are things I can do for it. But if I were to install one of these units, I could just say, hey, rather than wrapping all my ductwork down below and trying to keep the hot air hot that's coming through, I could just take one of these and pipe it into that bathroom and help it warm that bathroom space if I wanted to.
Correct.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. Direct vent fireplaces are highly efficient when it comes to burning gas. They have the mix down based on the amount of oxygen that's coming in the vent, in the pipe, and then how much is going out of the pipe. You can really control a lot of things. We have these units that are inside of a wall, and really the only heat you end up getting from them is radiating from the front. Well, now they've come up with a way for you to use that heat, which is pretty cool. You know, even dumping it into different rooms. You can dump it into the same room. So there's a lot of things you can do. But we're up here in Michigan. Right now, I mean, we've been sleeping with the windows open for a while now. You know, out southwest, we were just out in Arizona, down in the southeast in Texas. It's still smoking hot, right? Where would this become beneficial in an area like that?
Something like that may not be when it comes to the heat. You know, in an application like that, they might use something that's, some of them call them heat dump outs, just a heat dump. And now what we're doing, Mike, is similar scenario, but we're actually taking the heat, instead of going into a different room, we're forcing it outside to the outside elements. Okay, because maybe they don't want that heat at all, or they want to at least limit as much as they can. And, you know, a lot of those are going to be able to offload 40% or a little bit better of that heat coming off that unit to the outside so that they can get some usage out of that fireplace. And that's a conversation that always happens with, you know, Florida, Texas, Arizona. Why are we buying the fireplace? Are you in northern Texas where you lost power for 2 weeks, you know, that happened this year? Do you want the heat? Or do you want it for the ambiance? And try to find out exactly why they're buying it and what they want to do with it. But yeah, that would be the type of unit that we would look at in applications like that.
Yeah, that's what we talk about. We call it offloading, right? Just get rid of the heat. I want the fire. I want the look. I want the ambiance. I want call it whatever you want. But I don't need all of that heat coming through there. So it's a great way just to say, hey, pump this outside so that I can maintain comfort level without all of that heat coming in here.
We also have units that provide zero heat because we're dumping 100% of it to the outside, and it is just looks. So, we get those calls as well. And that might be one of the hotels that we work with or something like that. They don't want any of the heat at all coming into the lobby of the hotel. So we can do those units as well. So we're dumping the heat completely outside. It's providing zero heat, which means there's no screen in the front of it because there's no heat coming off the glass. So you have this solid glass panel that's essentially, we'll call it like cool to touch because you can touch it. And you just have this beautiful linear flame coming out of it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because a lot of our commercial work that we do, that's really what we're dealing with. They don't want to have their staff figure out how do we use the fireplace without, warming it so high that our people, our patrons don't want to hang out there, right? So by eliminating the heat altogether and just saying, no, you get the view of the fire. It's beautiful. But you can use your standard controls for temperature, for, whatever, humidity, whatever you want to use in your lobby, in that space. That's a huge value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's becoming more and more popular, even in some residential houses these days. As you mentioned, in some of these southern states, I mean, they may not want heat at all. And that's where these options are perfect. They provide zero heat. It doesn't mess with any of the HVAC system that's internal, the house envelope or the building envelope. So they're perfect for that application.
And I love the fact that you bring up the house envelope. That is one of the benefits to having a direct vent fireplace, is utilizing outside air and venting outside all in one pipe. Some units are two, but usually it's one pipe, a pipe inside of a pipe. And it allows you to control that envelope a whole lot more versus using wood burning. And, we've had this conversation in episodes past where now the envelope is so tight on these homes nowadays that it is difficult to get makeup air coming into the home. And people don't fully understand when I light a fire, it takes oxygen to burn. So I'm using the oxygen in that space. And if I have a hole going out for the exhaust, well, then I need to have a hole pulling oxygen back into the space, right? There's a constant roll of air when you have a fire, and direct vent fireplaces do that all in one unit. So you don't have to worry about cracking a window. You don't have to worry about, opening the front door a little bit. I've done all of these things, yes, right? I've done them all.
The good old days.
The good old days. So yeah, that makes these fireplaces really cool, and with the way you're able to move the heat around now and really distribute it off of the radiating box itself, you're really able to create whatever you want. You want zero heat? I'll give you zero heat. You want heat to dump into a bedroom on the back wall? Let's say you've got the bump out, but behind that there's a bedroom. You can put a vent up there and offload some of that heat into a room, into a bathroom, into the current living space that the fireplace is in. Or you can just say, offload it outside. We don't need all that extra heat. So really cool stuff. Let's talk a little about safety. How does this impact safety concerns?
Well, yeah, so from a safety standpoint, when we're offloading heat, whether it be into a different room to the outside, each time you do that, you are reducing the radiant heat on that glass. So we are essentially limiting the heat that's coming off of the glass. So that in turn itself just makes it safer in the event that somebody does hit that glass or touch that glass, whether they have that safety screen or not on. But that's really what we're doing is each time you go into a different space or to the outside, we're helping reduce some of the heat coming off of the front of that unit itself, that glass on the face of the fireplace.
Yeah, I think in terms of safety as well, with the amount of heat that's pouring into that cavity in the home, it's going to relieve some of the heat inside of that bump out. There's just a lot of benefits to one of these heat distribution kits. And I, you know what? I make it sound like direct vent fireplaces aren't safe. They are safe. They are a great fireplace. This just kind of stepped it up a notch, Did a little, what was his name? Emerald? His little...
Yeah, Emerald Gossi. Bam! Bam!
Took it up a notch.
Yeah. No, they're extremely safe. These are just different ways of offloading heat from the units themselves. If somebody needs it, they don't want the heat. One of the ones that we didn't talk too much about is, we were chatting about TVs, is if somebody wants all that heat in there, but they do want to mount that TV, there are units that have these types of cool wall touch kits that just redirect the heat around to the top of your TV. So it allows your TV to literally be 12 inches above the glass of the fireplace with zero mantle. And you would just either have a vent above your TV, a linear vent that can be painted to match the wall, or if you have a bump out and you have a left and right side, because you have this bump out, you can do what they call side vents. So you don't see any vent from the face of it. You just have this clean fireplace TV and your vents are on the side, but the vents are still pushing heat into the living space of where it's at. There are different ways, different looks. Feel free to call us, because it's really all about answering and asking questions for you to make sure that you choose the right model.
I'm with you, Randy. You've hit the nail on the head. TVs are the the craze above fireplaces. Everybody sees their fireplace and goes, I'm going to put a TV right there. And they don't understand what we understand. That's why we do these episodes, That's why it's like, hey, just plan on running to whatever Black Friday sale and picking up another TV every 2 to 3 to 4 years. If you use your fireplace a lot, I think I've said that twice to customers before who really pushed me on it. And I've just said, listen, there's no denying the heat is going to hurt your TV. That's why in your TV's manual, it says, don't do this.
Yes.
Don't hang this over a fireplace. It frustrates people, but
it's nice that we have options now, which is fantastic.
Right.
We're getting there for you folks. We're getting there.
And I tell you what, the industry as a whole is listening to the people, listening to their customers, and really trying to come up with cool ways to get it. I said cool ways.
Yeah.
To give them answers. And ultimately, we're trying to remember we are putting fire in people's homes. So while we're doing that, we're trying to work around the creature features, I guess you'd call it, the comforts that people would like, and make it safe, and not just safe for the people inside, that's number one, but also safe for your appliances, safe for the other pieces of your living space. So kudos to our manufacturers. If you're an installer and you have some questions about any of the things that we've talked about here today, and how they function and how they work, you have a need, we can absolutely take care of that. Feel free to give us a call anytime. If you have any questions about what we've discussed here today, you can reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer your questions. I know Randy has been talking with a listener of ours from the UK. Is that right, Randy?
Yes. Yeah. I actually just emailed him this morning again before we got started. So he's been listening to us for quite some time, he said, and just has some conversations he wants to have about some of our products.
That is awesome. So shout out to him. And if you're one of those folks that's sitting out there going, man, I appreciate it, let us know. We'd love that. If you're out there saying, man, I wish you'd give us more, let us know that too, right? Because we love kudos, but we learn from our mistakes. So if you hear something that we're talking about and maybe disagree with it, that's cool too. Give us a shout, and we'll get it out there. We're here to help our customers, and we're here to help really everyone in general in this industry to be safe. And that's our ultimate goal, is that people can enjoy fire without concern. So, Randy, any last thoughts today?
Today is just a day. It's Friday, folks. Enjoy your day. It's Friday here in Michigan anyways. Enjoy your weekend or your week, whatever day this is going to air.
I agree. I hope you are all well as we brace for whatever COVID something or other is coming next. Stay safe. And most of all, and I got to say this, hug the ones around you. Love those who pour deeply into you and pour deep back into them, because that's what we are. At the end of the day, we're people. So I want you to know you're loved out there, and we do appreciate you listening. Until next time, have a great day, and we'll talk to you then.